After the establishment of the People's Republic of China, there were numerous armed bank robberies in the country. But have you ever heard of someone using a sledgehammer to rob a bank? It sounds unbelievable, but it's true. The culprit was the infamous cold weapon-wielding murderer Lei Guomin. Over the course of 10 years, he carried out 15 robberies, targeting multiple banks. In total, he killed 20 people and stole over 3 million yuan, approximately $400,000. He once murdered 3 security guards in the same bank, with 2 of them being only a few meters apart. Robbing a bank isn't something that can usually be done by just 1 or 2 individuals. Even if you have guns and explosives, you'd typically need a gang of at least 3 or more. However, Lei Guomin was an extraordinary bank robber. It's often said that the danger Lei Guomin posed on his own was comparable to that of a large criminal gang. So, who was Lei Guomin? How was he able to rob and kill so many innocent people single-handedly? Let's go back to 1999 to find out. Around 6 p.m. on December 4th, 1999, the traffic authority in Liuhe District, Nanjing City, Jiangsu Province, received a report of an accident. Traffic police quickly arrived at the scene in Liyun Village, Ma'an Township. The scene was chaotic. A local vehicle had overturned by the roadside. The driver, his face covered in blood, was lying in the middle of the road, several meters away from the vehicle. According to a passing truck driver, as they drove by, they noticed the overturned vehicle. The driver had stumbled towards them for help before collapsing. They assumed the driver had carelessly overturned his car and was injured, so they immediately reported the situation to the traffic authorities. An ambulance quickly arrived at the scene. The doctor in charge of the emergency assessment took one look and immediately exclaimed to the traffic police, "This isn't a traffic accident, this is a murder case." Following the doctor's direction, the traffic police noticed a clear knife wound on the victim's temple. The Nanjing Criminal Investigation Unit was immediately called to the scene. When the forensic team arrived and conducted a thorough investigation, they confirmed that this was a premeditated murder case. Based on the vehicle's license plate, the victim's identity was quickly established. His name was Wang Hua, a local resident of Liuhe, Nanjing. Hua was a former soldier, over 1.8 meters tall, with a strong and sturdy build. He worked as a bus driver. The forensic examination revealed that the perpetrator acted with extreme brutality, delivering a powerful and decisive blow. The victim had a single fatal wound located on his temple. The stab wound was exceptionally severe, piercing from the left temple to the right jawline. This indicated that the killer intended to immediately end the victim's life. The perpetrator clearly had experience with killing, knowing the vulnerable points of the human body and how to execute a lethal strike in a single move. According to the reporting truck driver's recollection, they seemed to have seen a figure running away from the overturned vehicle into a nearby field. Because the incident happened so quickly, the driver didn't get a good look at the person's face or clothing, but only remembered it was a short-statured man. For this serious case, the Nanjing police quickly formed a special task force, naming it the 12-4 case. After the task force was established, not only Nanjing City but the entire Jiangsu province immediately deployed their best officers to focus on solving the case. From the chaotic crime scene and the tire marks, it was evident that the vehicle had lost control and skidded over 50 meters. The police deduced that Wang Hua had engaged in a life-or-death struggle with the perpetrator before his death, causing the vehicle to lose control and overturn. Since Hua had a strong and sturdy build, the assailant, attacking from behind with a knife, was unable to subdue him immediately. Finding Hua difficult to deal with, the perpetrator became enraged and decided to kill him, leading to the vehicle losing control and overturning. After the vehicle overturned, despite suffering a fatal injury, Hua managed to muster his remaining strength to jump out of the car and run a few steps, before collapsing and succumbing to his injuries. The assailant was also injured and bled during the vehicle's overturning. Additionally, Hua's loud cries startled the perpetrator, causing him to panic and flee. Inside the vehicle, the police discovered a travel bag suspected to have been left behind by the perpetrator. Forensics also collected a blood sample that didn't belong to the victim, along with other traces of evidence. Inside the travel bag, the police found a fake Type 54 pistol, a nylon rope approximately 1 meter long, 4 license plates from other provinces, a razor, some personal items, a fake ID card, and a map of Jiangsu province. Unfortunately, none of these items turned out to be effective leads. The fake ID card found at the scene identified the owner as Song Jingxian, with an address listed as number 19, Huazi Alley, Longshan Road, Shanhaiguan District, Qinhuangdao City, Hebei Province. However, upon contacting Qinhuangdao authorities, they confirmed that no such road existed in the area, indicating that the ID card was forged. The 4 license plates left in the vehicle were also examined and found to have been stolen. None belonged to the perpetrator. Other items provided no significant clues either. The fake Type 54 pistol was traced back to the Yiwu wholesale market in Zhejiang province, which produced hundreds of thousands of similar replicas distributed nationwide, making it impossible to trace further. The travel bag originated from Langfang County, and the nylon rope was traced to Taihei in Anhui province. In an effort to track down individuals connected to these items, the Nanjing police travelled across the country from north to south, but failed to find any significant leads. Based on their experience, the police believed that the perpetrator had strong counter-investigation skills. He had deliberately purchased items from various locations nationwide to make it impossible for the police to follow his trail. It became clear that this was not his first crime. Believing that the case might be part of a series of connected crimes, the Nanjing police immediately issued a nationwide alert for assistance in the investigation. However, for 2 years, the case yielded no new leads, apart from a few scant fingerprints. At the time, the fingerprint database was not connected nationwide, and checking fingerprints of wanted criminals across the country still had to be done manually, which led to no breakthroughs. Fortunately, the Nanjing task force refused to give up. They continued to investigate similar cases nationwide, hoping to find a breakthrough. 2 years passed. In other places, this case might have long been shelved as a cold case. However, the Nanjing police remained persistent and refused to back down. Eventually, their perseverance paid off. In June 2001, the external investigation team brought good news from Wuxi County, Jiangsu province. In Wuxi, they found fingerprints that matched those at the scene of the 12-4 case. The suspect was identified as Lei Guomin, born on November 5, 1971, a farmer from Tongcheng City, Anhui province. Acting on this information, on June 7th, police from the Special Task Force immediately went to Tongcheng to arrest Lei Guomin. However, the Tongcheng police informed them that Lei had not returned home for years, and his household registration had been transferred to Anqing City on January 19, 1999. The Nanjing task force quickly moved to Anqing City. After a brief investigation, they obtained accurate information. Lei had travelled to Guangzhou and Shenzhen a few days earlier, claiming to be on a business trip. The task force dispatched one team to Guangzhou and Shenzhen to apprehend Lei, while another team remained to monitor his hometown. Lei's photo was distributed to all officers, and the train numbers he might use were sent to stations in Guangzhou and Shenzhen. On June 12, 2001, at the waiting hall of Shenzhen West Railway Station, dozens of officers holding investigation notices gathered to inspect trains bound for Anqing. Due to the overwhelming number of passengers and the imminent ticket checks, they could only carry out rapid inspections. Suddenly, one officer noticed a man dressed as a construction worker who, upon seeing the police checks, stood up and began walking toward the exit. Using his professional instincts, the officer found the man suspicious. The officer immediately signaled to his nearby colleagues while shouting, "Hey, you in the blue shirt! Stop!" At the sound of the officer's command, the man visibly panicked and started to flee. However, after running only a few steps, he was subdued and handcuffed by officers lying in wait ahead of him. After verifying his fingerprints, the police confirmed that he was Lei Guomin, the suspect in Wang Hua's murder. At the interrogation station, faced with fingerprints, footprints, and blood evidence, Lei Guomin had no way to deny the charges and quickly confessed to killing Wang Hua. However, he insisted that his intention was only to steal the car, not to harm anyone fatally. "This was really my first crime. I failed because I had no experience," Lei claimed. Lei's confession seemed plausible, but the Nanjing police were not convinced. First, the method of his crime was exceptionally brutal. He attacked critical weak points on the body with precision and ferocity, demonstrating decisiveness, efficiency, and extreme ruthlessness. If this was his first crime, particularly his first time killing with a knife, it was impossible for him to have such a high level of skill. Second, considering the tools he brought for the crime, it was evident that Lei had meticulously prepared and scouted the location beforehand, making it unlikely this was his first offense. More importantly, the police discovered a passbook hidden in Lei's inner jacket pocket, containing a deposit of 240,000 yuan, approximately $31,000. In 2001, this amount was substantial for a farmer, enough to purchase a house in Nanjing. Lei, however, was unemployed and had no legitimate source of income. Where had this money come from? When questioned by the police, Lei Guomin initially claimed he made the money from selling counterfeit cigarettes and pirated CDs. However, when asked where he obtained the goods, he fell silent and could not provide an answer. At this point, it became evident that the 240,000 yuan was likely obtained through criminal activities. The Nanjing police then visited the Anqing branch of the agricultural bank to investigate this deposit and Lei's other financial transactions. To their surprise, they discovered a much larger issue. Lei not only had 240,000 yuan, but also possessed another savings account with 500,000 yuan opened on April 16, 2001. While examining Lei's accounts, a bank employee revealed a critical detail to the police. The depositor was a small-framed man who had arrived in the morning carrying a large sack filled with 500,000 yuan in cash. The cash was all old banknotes, many of which were stuck together, a highly unusual occurrence. "We spent a long time counting the money and everyone was exhausted. That's why we remembered this person so vividly," the bank employee explained. At the time, I asked him, "How did you come across so many old banknotes?" He seemed visibly nervous and replied that it was repayment from a business associate. Even our manager found it suspicious and kept his phone number. After hearing this, the police were even more certain that the money was illicitly obtained. They began to wonder if Lei had any other hidden funds. Further investigations revealed that Lei held multiple accounts at the Agricultural Bank, the Industrial and Commercial Bank, the Construction Bank, the Bank of China, and the Postal Savings Bank. His total deposits amounted to over 3 million yuan, approximately $400,000. Based on the timing of the deposits and recollections of bank employees, the Nanjing police immediately connected Lei to a major event. On April 15th, the day before Lei deposited the old banknotes, a heinous crime had occurred in Jiangsu province. That night, at the Yanjiang County Credit Cooperative in Yancheng City, a brutal robbery murder took place. 2 security guards and the on-duty manager were savagely killed. The iron vault door had a large hole cut into it, and over 2.6 million yuan in cash was stolen from the vault. This case was extremely serious and was classified as one of Jiangsu province's top 10 criminal cases that year. Believing that Lei Guomin might be the perpetrator of the bank robbery, the police immediately traveled to Jiangsu. Fortunately, during the investigation of the Yancheng bank robbery, the Jiangsu police had collected significant evidence from the crime scene. After killing the staff on duty, the robber became overly excited upon seeing the cash, totaling over 2 million yuan. and did not notice that his hands were stained with blood. While fleeing and climbing over a wall, he left a bloody handprint on it. The Nanjing police compared this handprint with Lei Guomin's fingerprints and quickly confirmed that they matched. Faced with irrefutable evidence, Lei Guomin could no longer hide and finally confessed to being the perpetrator of the bank robbery. Lei had initially concealed his involvement in the Yancheng case, hoping to avoid the death penalty. However, once he admitted to robbing the bank and murdering 3 people, execution became inevitable. Realizing that he had no chance of survival, Lei Guomin ceased resisting and confessed to all of his crimes over the past decade. Even the seasoned Nanjing police, who had handled numerous major cases, were shocked by Lei Guomin's confession. What astonished them even more was that, over a span of 10 years, Lei had committed 15 crimes, killed 20 people and severely injured 4 others, all of which he carried out alone, without any accomplices. According to conventional criminal knowledge, even with a firearm, it would be difficult for a robber to execute such large-scale crimes. For example, in the Yancheng bank robbery, the local police initially refused to believe that Lei, who stood at only 1.65 meters tall, could have single-handedly killed 3 armed guards with a melee weapon. They suspected that Lei might have falsely confessed to the crime in exchange for better treatment in custody. However, once the evidence was thoroughly cross-verified and confirmed, the Yancheng police were stunned by the truth. Lei Guomin revealed during his confession that he was born in 1971 into a poor farming family in Tongcheng City, Anhui Province. His family struggled with severe poverty and had many children, so Lei dropped out of school after the 2nd grade. As a child, Lei was mischievous and frequently scolded and beaten by his mother, who often withheld meals as punishment. His father was indifferent, treating Lei as if he didn't exist. The family misfortune pushed Lei to run away from home at the age of 11. To survive, he started begging and eventually learned how to pickpocket. During this period, Lei was often bullied and beaten by others, including rival groups of beggars. He recounted being beaten nearly to death multiple times, either by other beggars or by the owners of items he had stolen. He would lie on the street, badly injured, with no one showing any concern for him. At just 12 years old, Lei was a child but had already endured the harshest cruelties of life. In Lei's eyes, no one in society was a good person, not even his own parents. He believed that the only person who ever showed him kindness was a police officer. Lei recalled that while pickpocketing one day, he was beaten so severely by the victim that his head bled, and he collapsed in a small alley. A passing police officer, seeing his pitiful state, carried him to the police station and cared for him for several days. The officer not only fed him but also bought him a set of clothes. However, on the 3rd day, Lei fled, fearing the officer would send him back to his hometown. He believed that living on the streets and stealing to fill his stomach was still better than returning home. As a result, Lei quickly developed a worldview filled with hatred toward society and a cold, emotionless personality. In his mind, no one in the world saw him as human, so he didn't need to see others as human either. To him, killing a few people didn't matter. A few years later, Lei's mother found him and brought him home, ending his life on the streets. He returned to school for a few years but soon dropped out, learning only a few basic words. His parents didn't change their behavior and remained indifferent, often forcing him to leave the house and fend for himself. With no other options, Lei began working odd jobs with adults from his village before reaching adulthood. Initially, Lei didn't intend to return to a life of crime. He tried to earn an honest living, hoping to build a better future. However, he lacked education and skills and had picked up lazy habits during his time on the streets. Consequently, he couldn't find a decent job. He then borrowed money from relatives to start a business, but due to poor management, it quickly failed, leaving him deeply in debt. Feeling overwhelmed by his financial burdens, Lei concluded that making money legally was a hopeless endeavor and decided to give up. During this period, Lei stopped working regular jobs and returned to his old ways, surviving through pickpocketing and breaking into homes to steal. He believed this method was much quicker, as the money he could earn from theft in one instance far exceeded a month's wages from labor jobs. His targets were hotels, guest houses, and private homes. In 1991, after sneaking into the Le Hua Hotel in Wuxi City, Jiangsu Province, and robbing multiple guest rooms, Lei was caught red-handed by several victims. They beat him up before handing him over to the police. Since the stolen amount was small, he wasn't sentenced or sent to a re-education camp. Instead, he received an administrative warning. After spending over 10 days in police custody, he was released. This incident made Lei realize that petty crimes wouldn't yield much money, and that being caught by victims could lead to imprisonment. Consequently, he decided to escalate to larger crimes, specifically home invasion and murder for theft. According to Lei, his reasoning was, "If I'm going in, I have to kill the homeowner, then take everything of value. First, I'll get a large sum of money, and second, I won't leave any witnesses. The police's investigative capabilities aren't that high, so it's hard for them to catch me." On August 1st, 1992, Lei wandered to Guangzhou City and arrived in the Sam Yuen Li area. After multiple scouting trips, Lei determined that the household of Zhang Ping, a butcher, was an ideal target. Zhang's butcher shop was doing well, and the family owned a safe, which Lei assumed contained a substantial amount of cash. Lei also discovered that the Zhang family lacked vigilance. Typically, only one person slept in the room where the safe was located, making it easy to handle. Lei spent an entire week meticulously preparing for the crime. Around 1 a.m., Lei climbed over the wall into Zhang's house and snuck into the room with the safe. Zhang's younger brother Zhang Huolin was asleep in the room at the time. Lei, having resolved to commit murder and theft, picked up a knife from the Zhang household and killed Huolin. After the killing, Lei searched the body and found a small amount of cash and a set of keys. He was preparing to open the safe when he suddenly heard voices coming from the adjacent room. Committing his first murder had left Lei nervous, and he mistakenly thought someone was coming to investigate. In his panic, he dropped the keys and the knife and fled the scene. The next day, Zhang's family discovered Huolin's body and immediately reported the incident to the police. However, at the scene, there was only a knife belonging to the Zhang household, and no other evidence, and no money appeared to be missing. This led the police to suspect that the crime was an act of revenge against the family's business dealings. After multiple unsuccessful investigations, the case was shelved. Following this incident, Lei didn't dare to commit another crime right away and went into hiding for over a year. On November 8th, 1993, Lei wandered to Zhongshan City, Guangdong Province, to look for another opportunity to commit a crime. In Zhongshan, Lei identified the household of Zhou Quanzhen in the city's outskirts as his next target. The family appeared to be prosperous, with both husband and wife wearing gold jewelry, particularly the husband, who wore a large gold chain. Lei decided they were an ideal target. Around 6 p.m. that evening, Lei brought a dagger and a knife with him and climbed over the wall into the Zhou family's yard. He hid by the door, waiting for nightfall to sneak into the house and carry out the robbery. Unexpectedly, shortly after Lei crouched down, Zhou's wife came outside to check on something and accidentally discovered him. Panicking, Lei immediately used the dagger he had brought to repeatedly stab Zhou's wife. Gravely injured, she screamed for help, alerting both her family and neighbors. Zhou's family grabbed knives and chairs to fight him off and chased him out of the house. Knowing he couldn't take on the entire family, Lei abandoned his weapons and climbed over the wall to escape the scene. This time, Lei was even less successful, failing to steal a single penny. In Guangdong, after 2 failed attempts to commit crimes, Lei fled to Yunnan Province to evade police pursuit. Around 4 p.m. on March 23, 1995, Lei arrived at Liu Bathao's residence at number 22, Miao Qian Street, Shaxi Town, Zhongshan City. Taking advantage of the homeowner's deep sleep, he broke into the house and used an axe to kill the homeowner. He then stole 100,000 yuan, approximately $14,000. This was the first time Lei had obtained such a large sum of money, leaving him thrilled. However, he expressed dissatisfaction with the weapon he had used during the crime. While killing Liu Bathao, the axe proved too heavy, making it challenging for Lei, who was of small stature, to wield it effectively. This prevented him from quickly killing the victim, who awoke and screamed for help. Fortunately for Lei, the neighbors were also asleep, allowing him to complete the crime. From this incident, Lei learned an important lesson about choosing appropriate weapons. On the night of June 13th, Lei, armed with tools like an axe, a sharp knife, a crowbar, and a glass cutter, broke into Chen Yitong's store located near a bus station ticket hall. He climbed through a window into the store and stabbed the sleeping victims in the neck with a sharp knife, killing 2 people instantly. Afterward, he used a crowbar to pry open 2 safes, stealing over 430,000 yuan, approximately $59,000 before fleeing. This was the first time Lei had robbed a national financial institution. Following this incident, he felt a mixture of fear and excitement and resolved to target state financial institutions for future crimes. On the night of September 22, 1997, Lei targeted a credit cooperative in Nanchang City, Jiangxi Province. He snuck into the duty room, stabbed a staff member on duty, and then proceeded to the 2nd floor of the cooperative to steal money. However, the injured staff member managed to cry out loudly for help, scaring Lei into fleeing empty-handed. After this failed attempt, Lei felt dissatisfied with the knife he had used. He concluded that a hammer would be the most effective weapon. At 9 p.m. on August 5, 2000, Lei carried a hammer to the courtyard of a credit cooperative in Beiguan, Suzhou City, Anhui Province. He killed 2 female staff members on duty with the hammer and stole over 188,000 yuan, approximately $26,000. 6 months later, in February 2001, Lei had spent all the stolen money and needed to commit another crime. This time, he chose a bank as his target. Around 8 p.m. on April 14th, Lei, wearing a mask and gloves and armed with crime tools, broke into the Yandu Bank. When a security guard on duty stepped out of the duty room, Lei emerged from the shadows and struck him on the head with a hammer, causing the guard to collapse on the spot. Inside the room, another guard, hearing the commotion, asked, "What happened?" Lei immediately charged in and attacked with the hammer. He then proceeded to the 5th floor, where he used the hammer to kill Chen Zhicheng, the administrative manager, who was sleeping at the time. After committing the murders, Lei stole over 2.6 million yuan, approximately $350,000, and fled the scene. The next day, fearing that storing such a large sum of money in his home would arouse suspicion, he divided the money and deposited it in 3 different banks. This decision ultimately led to his downfall, as it allowed the police to trace him and uncover his string of crimes. Lei's final crime was the murder of driver Wang Hua in 1999. Wang resisted fiercely, causing the car to overturn. Lei was injured and fled the scene, leaving behind the murder weapon and his fingerprints. This evidence allowed the police to identify him. According to police statistics, Lei Guomin committed a total of 15 robberies, murdered 20 people, severely injured 4 others, and stole a total of 4 million yuan. On December 28, 2001, Lei Guomin was sentenced to death for his crimes and was executed immediately. The Ministry of Public Security concluded that since the establishment of the People's Republic of China, Lei was the first criminal to repeatedly use cold weapons to rob financial institutions, earning him the notorious title of the Cold Weapon Killer Demon. What do you think about today's case? Please leave your comments below so we can discuss it together. Don't forget to support us with a like and subscribe to the channel to motivate our team to bring more dramatic cases. And that concludes today's case. Thank you, dear viewers, for watching. Goodbye, and see you next time.